And so you're seeing a lot of people rebrand themselves. We can also see some like identity theft happening right now. Like there's a mixture, a restructuring, and a dissolution of identities going on. And we'll kind of keep seeing themes of that until Saturn kind of breaks away from Neptune.
You're listening to Life Aquarian, a soul's journey through the human experience. And now, here's your host, Leanne.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. It's Leanne. And if you're new here, this is the space where I reflect on everything I'm learning and the insights that come along the way. And it's also where I get to introduce you to the incredible teachers, healers, and mentors I meet, people whose work and wisdom have truly inspired me. And I believe they're going to inspire you too. And today, I'm so excited because our guest is the host of my new favorite podcast, The Alley Cat and the Canary, an astrology show that breaks down advanced concepts in a way that's actually easy to understand. And she blends her knowledge of astrology and shadow work with a very powerful understanding of manifestation, helping people heal the wounds that keep them playing small so they can step into their fullest potential. Please welcome to the show, Alexis.
Hi. Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. And when I heard you talk, every time I hear you talk about astrology, I just get this. There's something that I get within me when I know someone is channeling wisdom of the ancients. Like when something very powerful is coming through, it's like this light bulb, and that goes off every time I hear you speak, where I'm like, you are so connected. And let's speak on that for a moment. I want to talk about how you came to do this work. I know that you do a lot of things and you have a couple of degrees and certifications. And so let's chat about that. What led you down this path of spiritual and metaphysical work?
Uh, Trauma. No. um, really, like, you know what's funny is like if I told myself like 10 years ago that I'd be doing the work that I'm doing now, like I would have never believed you. But I went through, so around the time COVID happened, I was just ending a marriage and I had lived overseas. Like it was a pretty like dark time. It was my Saturn return now that I know astrology. Um, and then COVID happened and I had been like routinely avoiding inner work. I had been routine, like I would go out to the bar, I would go out to a friend or whatever, and I wasn't doing the inner work. And then COVID happened, and it was like the biggest gift I could have gotten. I know that's strange to say with COVID, but I couldn't go out, so I had to go in. And I was just like a fledgling with astrology. I think I had like just learned what my moon sign is, but that was whenever I found manifestation and I found shadow work and I like this whole world opened up to me about how I could heal myself and how I could start to make sense of things. And that's where I'm at now. It just kind of like you like pull one thread and that's it.
And what is so fascinating to me about that is because I've been studying astrology for more than half of my life. I picked up my first book when I was 18,
Wow.
and I'm 50 now. So it's that long, and it's like this rabbit hole. I talk about it's a rabbit hole. It's never ending. There's so much
Hmm.
to know. And the fact that you have gone so deep so fast
Mm.
blows my
Yeah.
mind.
Astrology, well, the thing about astrology is, and I think it's one of my favorite things about it, is that you can study astrology for the rest of your life, and I don't think you'll ever be able to know everything about it just because there is, Western tropical astrology, and then there's Eastern and Vedic, and then there are other things like your solar return chart, and then you have to learn about midpoints, and there's draconic astrology. Like there's all these different types, and it's just like so much. Like I have a Sag moon and my moon is out of bounds, which means it's like even more amped up. So like all I want to do is like soak up knowledge, and astrology is like, you want knowledge? Like that's all we got is knowledge. Like here you go. So it's something that I can just like really lock in and just be like, yeah, and like learn everything about. And it's so fun, especially like whenever you have learned it to a point where you can like pick people out. Like me and my brother will watch like reality shows, and like I'll watch people and I'm like, that's a Leo. Like because like the more you get familiar with the energies, the easier everybody is to spot. And you're like, oh, yep, that's a very Virgo reaction. Like that's what I would expect out of her. Like
I do the same thing. That's why I love reality TV. It's one of the reasons. It's like a fun little game.
it is, yeah. Because I mean, you can just pull up people's charts, but it is fun to like to guess, to be like, she kind of looks like a Scorpio, but there's something like softer underneath. I bet she's a Pisces moon. And then you look up and you're like,
Mhm.
I was right. I mean, and I'm a Virgo. I like being right anyway, but
I'm an Aquarius, so I know everything. And
oh my God, I love Aquarians. Like, and so like most of my partners have been Aquarians, and I'm a Virgo, so that's not very like typical, at least whenever you're talking about sun sign astrology. But the thing that I love most about Aquarians is that you have to like earn their love a little bit. Like because y'all spend so much time like being, I don't want to say like outcast, but y'all spend time like not in the main crowd. So y'all kind of know what it's like to not be accepted. And and y'all are like kooky and weird and eccentric, but I like that because I am also kooky, weird, and eccentric. So whenever I find an Aquarius, like y'all tend to be kind of closed off because I think sometimes maybe y'all are anticipating that rejection a little bit because socially y'all have had to deal with it. But then whenever you're like, no, like I'll accept you're weird, they're like y'all are like the sweetest, most caring and soft like people, and y'all are fixed signs, so y'all are in it for the long haul. And I just think it's so funny, like whenever I read like pop astrology and people are like, oh, Aquarians are so cold. I'm like, tell me you've never had an Aquarius love you. Like, okay. Like, because y'all are so it's an interesting and like it's a different lens than a Virgo lens for sure. Because Virgo I think is more detail oriented, and Aquarius is like y'all are looking at things in a bigger, through like a wider scope, I think. But if
Mhm.
you can play those together, I always say, like, because my boyfriend's an Aquarius, I always say it's like I get the A side and he gets the B side, or vice versa. So together you get the whole track. As long as you can accept that they have the B side and you have the A side, or whatever. I think it's cool because you have access to information and points of view that I don't have. So to me, that is invaluable because that's just typically not how I look at things. So your word and your perspective means more to me because it's something that I wouldn't typically do. I just love Aquarians. Y'all just do whatever the hell y'all want, and I love it.
Thank you. It's very interesting to hear someone else. I'm usually the one who's doing all of the talking about astrology. So to get to talk to somebody else who knows even more than I do is so exciting to me. And something you said, I wanted to ask you about when you were talking about, because I know when a lot of people are looking at compatibility, they're looking at sun sign to sun sign. And as we know, there's so much more going on to that. And I want to
Yeah.
ask you, do you believe that compatibility is possible between two people no matter the chart? Or do you think that some relationships are just doomed? And if some
Mm,
are just doomed, as my
so
boyfriend texts me,
so I it's about awareness at the end of the day. So again, I am a Virgo who has an Aquarius habit for sure. Definitely guilty of that. But I have also seen Virgo and Aquarius couples be toxic as shit. Like they cannot make it work. And it's because I think they can't get on that same wavelength of, okay, I have this perspective, you have this perspective. Let's trust each other on the perspectives that we have and then marry them together to make decisions as partners, or as friends or whatever. And sometimes it can be like but so sometimes it can be, well, I don't understand why you don't see it this way. Well, I don't understand why you don't see it this way. So there's a clash there instead of trying to find common ground, because Virgo and Aquarius are both very cerebral signs. They're very like, we need a lot of where I say that like earth and air signs are like this on the logical or the thinker end of the zodiac. So there's a lot to have in common, but it can very quickly go, you know, if you get like too fixed or too set in your ways and you're not willing to like see things from the other person's point of view, it can go very badly. So it really depends. Like if you have that awareness to be like, okay, my partner's an Aries, I'm a Taurus, typically not a great like combination, right? But if you're like, okay, I am happy being the steady one and I am happy with them constantly being the catalyst, because that can work. If I am the steady one and you are the one who brings in the new things, we can balance each other out. But if you don't want that balance, or if you're not okay with that, or if you want somebody whose energy is a little bit more like you, if you're not looking for, a difference in experience, if you want somebody who's a little bit more stable, a little bit more calm, then don't be with an Aries, like, because Aries is gonna bring the funk. Like that's what they're supposed to do. And you kind of have to like accept that, and as like, okay, this is an Aries, this is who they are. You either accept that and you accept the experiences that that brings, or you don't. So and I mean, that's not to say that compatibility doesn't matter. It does. Like, I mean, matching moon signs or matching Venus signs, if we're talking about like partnerships, those are amazing. Or at least, compatible ones. um but I don't think it's necessarily required. I think it can make things flow a little bit more smoothly, but it's not required if you have the correct awareness and if you're willing to meet somebody on their terms and they're willing to meet you on yours.
Yeah, that's a very good answer. Yeah. My boyfriend is a Leo with an
Oh,
Aries
okay. So your
moon,
sister
Aries
sign
an Aries moon, and
with an
Aries
Aries
Mars.
moon, you said?
Aries moon and Mars. Aries moon and Mars. So it's very interesting. And then Gemini Venus, and I have a Pisces Venus. So it's
Okay.
those two Venus signs are not are
Well,
not compatible.
so let's talk about it, because Gemini is on the it is on the logical end of the spectrum, and Pisces is on the emotional end of the spectrum. But y'all are both mutable. Y'all both like a lot of change. And I think if y'all find that thread, I mean, I'm sure y'all together. Like, don't let me coach you through your relationship. But I'm saying that that is the thread that can bring Gemini and Pisces together, especially like with how much Gemini likes to learn and how much Pisces likes to experience, like, especially things on like a higher level. Like, that's where Gemini and Pisces can really come together, because I know like typically they square, right? But a square to me, it is a harsh aspect. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's one of those things where it's hard, but if you work through it, the reward is a lot higher. So whenever there's a square, as long as you're like have number one, have the awareness, and number two, are like willing to, get down in the trenches and like do the damn thing, it can be incredibly rewarding, and you can find some like really cool things that come out of it whenever things come like that. And his Venus, I would look at, we don't have to talk about it right now if you want to, but I would look at if it's out of bounds.
What does that mean, out of bounds?
Okay. So I love talking about it because whenever I found out about out of bounds placements, it made everything make sense. Because okay, so what an out of bounds placement means, it has to do with the declination of the planet from the sun. Okay, it mostly happens on the Capricorn Cancer axis and the Sag Gemini axis. Um, it doesn't really ever happen on the Aries Libra axis, but and then very rarely in the fixed signs. And then it happens most with the moon, and then it happens with Mercury, Venus, Mars, and then rarely Jupiter. But there are some planets that don't ever go out of bounds. And then Pluto and Uranus go out of bounds for longer, but more rarely because they move a lot slower. So what it means when that planet is out of bounds and that declination is really high, and whenever this is over, I can show you how to like find that like on astro.com so you can see. Is it's it's untethered. It's because it's gotten so far away from the sun, it's not being babysat anymore. It's not, it doesn't have a supervisor. So whenever you have something like I do, an out of bounds Sag moon, the moon is already in Sagittarius and now it's gonna like while out in Sagittarius. It's going to be super Sagittarius. And what I've seen is it can be uh is sometimes it can even swing to present like a Gemini, or it can swing to be extremely Sagittarian. It's interesting to see the way that the moon is aspected, the way that that out of bounds will show up, because I've also seen like an out of bounds Sag Venus. Like Sag Venus is typically very like, you know, free love, very open. A lot of times you find these people in non-committal or even polyamorous or non-traditional relationships because they're just big and expansive in their love, right? But I have found some out of bounds Sag Venuses who want very traditional, who want they don't, it doesn't behave like it typically would. And so it's like a little surprise in a chart. And a lot of times, especially if they're in any sort of like karmic knot, that out of bounds placement can be their loophole to get out of it, to be able to like heal that karmic knot. It's almost like their superpower that they can tap into to help themselves out of that.
So thank you for explaining that. And you just said, I think this is a great segue into something else I wanted to talk to you about, because you have recorded an episode about karmic knots, which I'd never heard of before.
Mm.
And I would love to chat about that now. Can you please explain to people what a karmic knot is and how to
Yes.
find one in your chart, if you
Okay.
even have
So,
one?
yeah. So what a karmic knot is and how you can see if you have it in your chart is if you have a planet squaring your nodes. And what that typically means, excuse me, what that typically means is there has been a misstep. So your south node kind of, it's the horse you ride in on this lifetime because it's where you were at in your past life. And then your north node is where you're going, where you're supposed to end your life in this time. Your goal is to go towards that south node. But whenever you have something squaring that nodal axis, it's almost like a speed bump. It's like where you get caught up. It's like sometimes like say a Jupiter squaring nodes, for example. It's almost like instead of going from south to north, you go from south and then you try to go north, but you get hung up on Jupiter and then you circle back around. Like you don't, it's something, it's a planet that you've had trouble mastering in multiple lifetimes. That's why it's showing up as a square. Like you're coming here and you're trying to do this over and over again, and it's an issue. So typically it does lend itself like, hey, like you need to focus on this. Like, you know, if your Mercury squaring your nodes, like you really need to focus on your communication and your thought processes and being honest, like you know, so that's and it can swing like either the same way out of bounds can swing like wild, the nodal square can swing wild. It can be uh like Saturn, for example. People who have Saturn squaring their nodes, Saturn is all about discipline and self-control and all of that stuff. People with Saturn squaring their nodes can be people who are extremely disciplined, like so militant in the way that they do things. So like every T is crossed, every I is dotted. This is exactly how it is. Everything is like hyper controlled to where they like can't relax. They can't relax to let themselves do what they're supposed to do in that north node. And I've also seen it on the other side where Saturn squares the nodes where they have no self-control. They don't stop themselves from doing shit. They are constantly just they're just like, I don't really need discipline. I can just fuck off. And it's interesting to see. Again, it depends on the chart and how that Saturn's aspected also, but it and what sign and house it's in. Uh yeah, it's very interesting to see those karmic knots.
And you mentioned Mercury square North Node, which I now know is the light line.
Yeah, yeah. That is what we call it.
Because of your podcast, I now know that, well, I guess it's a term that you and your mentor created. Is that correct? The lie line?
Yeah, my mentor actually, I think, created calling it the lie line. The other names we came up with together, but the lie line, that was all her. Um, but yeah, the lie line, and I do have people in my life who have a lie line, and it's one of those. Again, you kind of have to accept them for who they are, and if you're okay with how that's gonna be, you can accept them, but if you're not, like, if you're not okay with somebody, like, straight up lying to you, like, just don't be friends with these people. Like, because it's just gonna cause friction because they're gonna show up that way, and I have, like I said, I have people who have a lie line, and I call them out on it. I'm like, "You're lying. Knock it off." Like, Saturn is gonna come around and give you such a karmic ass whooping, like, stop it. Like, you could do what I do and just be confrontational about it. But I mean, yeah, it is interesting to see the way that a lie line will behave. And like I said in that podcast, the lie lines tend to do this thing where they like group up together. And I'm like, y'all are just like all feeding each other. Like, it's very like interesting to watch, like from a perspective, just from like a what's the word? For somebody who's what spectator. Somebody who's a spectator. It's yeah.
So
Wild to
go
see.
listen to that episode right now, everybody. It's so interesting. And on this same path, since we're talking about the North Node a little bit, I wanted to ask you, what how do you interpret a North Node Venus conjunction in synastry, like with
In
romantic?
synastry. I think in because it's Venus, I would say that probably like how one person's Venus functions, how they're loving them or how they need to be loved or how that relationship is, helps them achieve that North Node. Do you have that synastry with your boyfriend or
Yes.
yeah, I so my North Node is in Aquarius. So my boyfriend's uh
Ooh.
Jupiter is on my North Node. So that expansion and that stuff, yeah, that alignment, yeah, I'd like that a lot. Like that that the Venus with the North Node. Can I ask you where your North Node is? I don't remember
Where what?
where your North Node is.
Sagittarius. I can't remember the degree. 5 degrees, maybe? Yeah,
Okay.
maybe it's 5 degrees of Sag, but it's Sagittarius.
You
And
know, in sorry.
I was just gonna say I'm attracted to a lot of Sag. I never, before I even understood North Node, I was just like, I mean, yes, Aquarius and Sagittarius, peas and carrots, that makes sense. It tracks.
Yeah.
But when I realized my North Node was in Sag, then it made sense to me because it's like, oh, these people are showing me the way.
Yeah. And it's so like astrology is like so fun whenever it like winks at you like that. Because like I've noticed, so my North Node is in Aquarius and I've dated a whole bunch of Aquarians, but my South Node is in Leo and all my best friends are Leos. So like the comfort of the South Node is there in my friends, but the change and the growth, I mean, that's in Aquarius and that's where then that is what I experience in relationships for sure. So, but it sounds like with, your boyfriend's Venus being on your North Node, like that's a um
Oh, it's his North Node in my Venus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's his North Node in my Venus, and he is very much living his best Virgo South Node life.
Virgo
Yeah,
South. Oh,
I
oh,
know.
so his North Node is in Pisces. He's going through a nodal return right now.
Oh, yes, I guess maybe he
Mm,
is. Yeah, he's
yeah.
definitely got some Virgo tendencies. We're two totally Totally different people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
but it can be nice whenever you're totally different because that fosters room for more growth, and I'm always here for growth. That I mean, that might just be the Sag moon talking, but I'm
well,
I'm always here
I
for
know you said you have Jupiter rules your chart. I know that
it.
you said that in one of your podcast
Yeah.
episodes, that Jupiter was your chart ruler. Does that mean, is your chart ruler the ascendant ruler, or is it just the planet that shows up in your chart the most?
It's the ascendant ruler. So I'm a Sag rising also. So the ruler of Sag is Jupiter. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Then wow, that's very interesting. So then what is your Mars, Venus, and Mercury?
My Mars is in Taurus, but it's on the fixed star Algol. And my Venus is in Leo and my Mercury is in Virgo.
Okay. So, and I know that you had said that you were double Virgo, so that makes sense. Ooh, and then a Taurus Mars. I have Mars in Capricorn. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
very interesting. Ah, we would work anyway. This is a I'm processing as I'm talking and it doesn't always work, but it's like this okay, this makes sense to me. That's cool. I get it. I get you. Um,
Yeah, and I love a cat Mars. Cat Mars can be great for getting shit done, but cat Mars is also one of those where I'm like, I will give you a lot of space whenever you're pissed off because a cat Mars, because Mars is exalted there, like a cat Mars can fuck your shit up if they want to. So I'm like, me with my little detriment Mars, I'm just gonna stand back while you while you do your thing.
well, it is true that I had a history really growing up of really bad anger and outbursts, and that is part of what got me on this what got me on this spiritual path is because I didn't want to live as that angry um person anymore where people were afraid of me. You know, that
Yeah,
is a there was a point in my life where I wanted people to be afraid of me, and then there was a point in my life where I realized, this is not good. It's not a good thing. But I didn't ever, I never associated that with Mars and Capricorn, but that's why I have to do this spiritual work. That's why I have to do my regular practices. That's why I live the life that I live, is because I do not want to be that person anymore. So it's interesting that you said that.
yeah. And I understand that because even my Mars is in detriment. But it is on the fixed star Algol, which we don't have to go into that, but it is a violent star. Uh, so I part of
Oh,
it is oh yeah, I could write you a dissertation on that star. But it is a violent and destructive. I mean, it's also a star for survivors. Like if I see Algol in a chart, I know you're not new. Like you've lived a couple lives, right? But it being Mars, like the planet of like action and like getting shit done and and even aggression, Al Ghul being there, even with a detriment Mars, I was, oh yeah, I'm right there with you as far as like I was being more destructive, and I too like I valued like whenever people would fear me because then I could get my way and I could just but then I'm like, I don't really like want to live like this, especially with an Aqua North node. Like I need to kind of like be part of the community and kind of set things up. I need to start to there needs to be more harmony here, and yeah, so I'm saying I relate to you and that Mars struggle.
I'm here's the here is what I most wanted to ask you about. There's still so many things, but my original intention when I asked you to come on the show is because I was so interested to hear your insights and interpretation of this Saturn-Neptune conjunction that is happening, has already started, I think. I really am not even going to pretend to know that much about it. I've done some research, but I just had this feeling that you would know you would bring something through. So I'm so curious to hear what you have to say about it.
So, Saturn and Neptune being together, it's not my favorite conjunction, I can tell you that. Because right now it's happening in Aries, right? And Saturn falls in Aries. And like you know me, like I'm such a big Saturn stan. Like he's to me, Saturn is like the anti-hero. He's always portrayed as the bad guy, but he's just really trying to help you. So seeing him in fall, the structure that he provides is not as like stable as it is if it was like in Capricorn, you know. And then it being there with Neptune, and Neptune's like not exalted or anything in Aries, but Neptune dissolves. And so that structure that Saturn usually provides, that like nice to me it's comforting. You know, that structure that Saturn provides, Neptune dissolves it. And so it makes him fall even more. And so this is around the time where you've seen people, they kind of like lose that structure. And especially with the nodes being in Pisces, we're seeing people Pisces, because it is I mean Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, but also in modern times Neptune. Uh it brings that Neptune fog forth a little bit more, and you can see people like, especially like if you're talking to people who have done like manifesting, you know, they've manifested like really far, but now is the time with all of that going on where you'll see people kind of slide back into like old patterns. And normally Saturn's there to, you know, call upon, and kind of you can kind of like grab him to like help you ground yourself. But daddy's not home right now. Like so and Neptune is, he's so slick. A lot of times in a chart he's kind of like, to me Neptune's kind of the villain, because Neptune will grab you and you won't even see. You won't even notice. And you don't notice until you're already in the fog and you're already lost. And because he's in Aries, it's aggressive. Actually, just like a little side note, me and my mentor were talking. I don't think it made it onto the podcast, but me and my mentor were talking about so Neptune is like the ocean and stuff like that, but also Aries is so aggressive. I was like, I wonder if we'll see like an uptick in pirate activity. And we have. We have seen an uptick in pirate activity. Like a friend of mine went to go buy her furniture, and they're like, okay, but we can only give you one piece now because the rest of it's being held out like at sea by pirates. And I was like, I didn't have pirates on my bingo card. I was kind of joking about that, but yeah, I know, right? Like, isn't astrology funny? Like, it's one thing whenever you're talking about like the energy, but like whenever you see like real life shit happening, it's also so because everything's in Aries. And Aries is like house is the first house. You do tend to see that first house influence there. And so you're seeing a lot of people rebrand themselves. We can also see some like identity theft happening right now. Like there's a mixture, a restructuring, and a dissolution of identities going on. And that'll keep happening until, you know, because Saturn moves faster than Neptune's. And we'll kind of keep seeing themes of that until Saturn kind of breaks away from Neptune.
What would you say to somebody who's having a Saturn return during all of this?
Okay, so first of all, I can empathize because my Saturn return and the people born around my time, my Saturn return happened at the same time Pluto was on my Saturn. So Pluto and Saturn were conjunct on my Saturn. So it sucked. And they're kind of experiencing the same thing, but with Neptune. And Neptune, like Pluto's a destroyer, but Neptune's a dissolver. So my advice, because Saturn's already in fall in their chart, a lot of times these people do struggle with, you know, self-discipline and structure and those sorts of things. I guess I would say kind of really sit and get honest about the things that you want. Because after Saturn comes and says, okay, what have you been doing for the past 30 years? Like, is it time for a karmic ass whooping or what? You know, like after he leaves, like if you've taken that ass whooping and you've done what you need to do and you've done the work and you've gone, okay, daddy, like I'll do it. Like, or if you've gone, I know you just whooped my ass, I don't give a shit. Like, depending on what you've done, whenever Saturn leaves, Saturn crystallizes. So make sure that you are in alignment with where you want to be. Find something to ground you, because with Neptune, it's going to be very hard. Fighting what Saturn is bringing and fighting the fog is going to be difficult. I would say probably get a little bit more aligned with your beliefs, and really, like, especially, I feel like this Pisces North Node can help you because you're working in Neptune's realm, right? So you can use that Virgo South Node to propel you forward. Just be solid and know where you want to go. Don't let the fog lose you. Don't do that. Like, kind of, stay at the captain's wheel. Even if you're going through fog, it's okay. The fog will clear. Just steady, steady as she goes.
Cool, because I know someone who is about to be going through their
Yeah.
Saturn return,
I
and they
I
were
I know a couple people that are, especially, and keep an eye on the house that it's in too. And if Saturn is being, like, if the Saturn in their chart is being trined in any way or like positively aspected, they can lean on the energy of that planet to help support Saturn, because it already naturally does in their natal chart. So if, like, Venus is trine their Saturn or something like that, they can lean on Venus to help support the structure that Saturn would normally give.
And I know, as you referenced earlier on your podcast, you talk about how much of a fan you really are of Saturn and how
I
a lot
love
of people are so afraid. They're so
Yeah.
afraid of it. I wanted to ask you, what does Saturn in our natal chart, again, your interpretation, what is that showing us? Because I have like my version of this, but what it means, but I'd like to hear um how you would interpret that. Like, for example, my Saturn is in Cancer.
Mm.
So what does that mean?
So Saturn, like I said, he's the anti-hero for me, because Saturn does represent fear at the end of the day. He does show you where you're scared and the things that terrify you. Like, I mean, even my Saturn is domicile, and so maybe that's why I'm like friends with him. But I think it is where you fear it, but he also protects you there. Like, if you have Saturn in, say, the seventh house, a lot of times people with Saturn in the seventh house, they don't get into relationships until like much later in life, or they don't get married until later. It's kind of a late bloomer as far as like romance goes, right? Um, but I think Saturn protects you from getting into something before you're ready. I think, because a lot of times people with Saturn in the seventh house, they're not ready for a relationship, or they're not really ready for marriage. And I can already hear the people like listening to this going, well, I'm ready. It's like, check yourself. Like, seriously, look at it. Like, be honest with yourself. I call it an emotional audit. Do an emotional audit. Be really, really real with yourself. Would you actually be ready? Would you be able to handle not only your own shit in a relationship, but also somebody else's? Like, so you kind of have to, Saturn will go, look at it, and you'll go, okay. Like, and you're either here for it, you're either here for because I just personally, I value brazen, direct, unadulterated honesty. Even if you hurt my feelings, I don't give just tell me like it is, so that I can go work on it, or so that we can just like be frank with each other. I don't want all the flowery words. I don't want all the social niceties. Like, don't give me that. Don't, just tell me straight up so that we can go do it. Like, I can take the hit. Like, it's fine. Like, I'm an adult. I might get my feelings hurt, but that's fine. Like, feelings will heal, but like growth is forever. So like, we need to do that. And some people, I mean, they can handle the hit and some people can't. And that's on them. Like, how much do you want to grow?
And I have Saturn in the fifth, and I've never wanted kids. I've never
Yeah, no,
wanted.
a Saturn in the fifth typically don't. Saturn in the fifth, or like cat moons, typically are just like, no, I'm good.
Interesting about the cat moon. I didn't know that.
Yeah, cat moons typically don't. They're not, and the cat moons that do have kids, they're not like the typical like soft type of like, oh sweet baby kind of mom. They're just not. They're just not like wired that way. And so yeah, normally cat moons don't want kids.
Interesting. So now that we talked about Saturn, the other thing I wanted to ask you about, and you did a podcast episode on this too. So the last thing I wanted to ask you about was how we can use our natal charts to manifest. And I
Oh my
know
god,
that,
it's my favorite thing to talk about.
see,
So the reason why I cling to astrology the way that I do is because it gives me a way to understand things in a way that I typically don't. I'm neurodivergent as hell. Sometimes social rules, I'm like, I don't understand why that's a thing. But astrology, I'm like, okay, this I can work with. Like other like sorting systems like Myers-Briggs or like Enneagram, I'm like, this is too flat. Like people have so much more nuance to them. But astrology, like whenever I can like really get into the nitty-gritty of things, I can be like, oh, like, and I've said this to people before, like whenever, especially like if I'm explaining things, I have a Virgo Mercury, so I'm going to explain things a certain way. But if I'm talking to somebody who's an Aries Mercury, I'm going I'm not necessarily going to speak to them in the way that I communicate best. I'm going to speak to them in the way that they will understand best. And if I know your Mercury, I know how to talk to you. So because Mercury is your thought processes and stuff. And so whenever we bring that to manifestation, your thoughts create your reality, right? And we know that whenever a thought is solidified is whenever it becomes a belief. Like whenever, somebody says something that you're wanting, like you have this job or whatever, and there's no doubt about it, you're like, mm-hmm. That's when you know it's become a belief and you can feel it, right? So I use that in that manifesting way. And whenever I look at the Mercury, because the thought is where it starts, I use Mercury as a starting point. So utilizing that Mercury in that way to to take a trip to Jupiter, to take, to get to your belief. That's really like where you want to use it. And even if, because we touched about on it, I'm sorry, we touched on it on the podcast too, because like Mercury is in fall in Leo, and we actually talked about Mercury in Leo and how you can utilize it. There's look, some planets do get in better in certain signs. That's true, but it's not necessarily a death sentence. It's just, are you adaptable enough to use the energy in the way that's required? And if you can understand the energies in the way that you need to maneuver, you can have anything you want. I mean, you can have anything you want anyway. It's just using your natal chart kind of fast tracks you because you're already moving in alignment with the system you already have built in.
and so then where would you suggest people look and how would they use it? Is it Mercury
So,
and Jupiter?
well, so Jupiter is ultimately, because Jupiter's your beliefs, like your big beliefs. So Jupiter is like ultimately where you're going to be at. Mercury is where you start, and you're going to use him to take a line to Jupiter. And you can even throw in Neptune a little bit because Neptune, like I said, he blurs the lines, right? He brings the delulu. So if you're having trouble manifesting something like like saying, yeah, you have $1 million or whatever, that's a common one. Using your Neptune and the nature of your Neptune to kind of lean into it a little bit to get to Jupiter, get to that belief, it can be helpful. Don't lean in too far because it's still Neptune, but letting him kind of take the edge off of the doubt and letting it kind of just, and so the sign that your Neptune is in, I think can help bring you the delusion. So, for example, people born around my time have Capricorn Neptune. Neptune actually doesn't do too well in Capricorn. But Capricorn is where we're talking about like money, career, all that stuff. So you can lean into the delusion of that financial success with the Neptune because he's already there. So using your Mercury, leaning into Neptune, and then you kind of you kind of like take the back door to Jupiter in that way. But the Jupiter, if you just want to start off with, you don't want to take any road. You just want to start off with Jupiter. Like, okay, let's do that. the nature of your Jupiter is what you really need to embody because, like I said, it's already going on in you. You already have that energy. So if somebody has, like a Leo Jupiter, like let the Leo come out. Like let that be big, let that be beautiful, let that shine, let that be like, okay, like you are going to manifest your beliefs. You are going to let things expand and grow by how you love yourself, by how you're allowed to shine, because that's what Leo does. Leo shines. So, or if you have a Jupiter in Aquarius, like be you, be your unique, wacky, quirky kind of alien and people skin sort of thing. Like do that in like a big Jupiterian belief system sort of way. And that you'll find that it helps you also. It feels good to be in Jupiter. Like Jupiter is like, you know, I mean, he can be a villain, but Jupiter, he loves giving you shit. He is a generous dude, and he will give you anything that you ask for. Just get in alignment with him. And so, look at your Jupiter, look at the house it's in, look at the way it's aspected and the sign, and really like be like, okay, like get in alignment with him and get in with that energy, and you'll find that aligning with it, not only does it feel good, it helps you manifest faster. And actually using your natal chart, I think whenever I'm looking at Mercury's and Jupiter's, because I know you've seen like there are a bunch of different like manifestation techniques. And some work for some people, but some don't work for others, like stuff like that. And I think this is why, is because people are built with different Jupiters and Mercury's and stuff. Like inner child work works for some people, but other people are like, but inner child work, like if you're working like if you have a Jupiter in Cancer, like, yeah, that's gonna, of course that's gonna, because that's what Jupiter is. Jupiter's nurturing, and I'm sorry, Cancer is very nurturing, and Cancer has to do with kids, not necessarily other people's kids, but maybe you as a small child, whatever your beliefs were, or maybe however they were, stunted as a kid. Like, really get in with that and get in touch with that, and then you'll find that alignment.
That's very interesting because I see Jupiter as I've always said, with my limited understanding, like Jupiter, planet of luck. So when you're acting that way, that's when you're attracting your luck. So for me, my Jupiter is in Pisces. So I always interpreted it like when I'm being compassionate,
Mhm.
when I'm being forgiving, when I'm being spiritual, when I'm being squishy, that
Yeah.
is when I'm attracting my luck. And what is your Jupiter in again?
Oh, it is in Leo.
Your Jupiter is in Leo. Okay,
Hmm.
yes, I know someone with Jupiter in Leo. So when you're speaking, when you're on stage, when you're allowing yourself to be seen, that is when you are able to manifest easier.
Yes. That like letting that Leo Jupiter shine. And I've got some other stuff in my chart that can make it a little tricky, but yeah, just sometimes just like letting yourself like I'm here, bitch. Like so like with somebody with a Leo placement, because Leos are so cinematic. Like wherever Leo is in a chart, like if somebody has like a Leo Venus or a Leo Mars, like they want the movie version of that thing. So like that's why Leo suns are like that. Like because your sun is like your, the bare bones of who you are, like it's your identity. So they're just kind of like like of course, like you're a Leo. Like it's just, and I know like your boyfriend being a Leo, I'm sure that I'm sure that that rings a bell there. But and both my best friends are Leo. Shit, even my dog is a Leo, and he is the most.
I had 2 Leo dogs. They were 2 weeks apart. And whenever I would walk them, people would pull over multiple times. People would want to pull over and look at them and talk to them. And I'm just like, man, I'm just trying to go on. I don't want to interact with anybody but these Leo dogs, which is
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's an Aquarius, because Aquarius are like the most people hating people like, because y'all are so good in crowds, and y'all are so good with people, and y'all can have such good charisma, but y'all at the same time y'all are also like, oh my god, leave me alone. Like
when it's when I'm off. When I'm on, I'm on. Open sign, come in. But when I'm off, it's like I just want to be invisible. I don't want to emote or do anything. I know that you do all sorts of work and have done all sorts of things. So can you please tell us, how can people work with you and what ways can they work with you? What kind of work are you doing? What kind of offerings do you
So,
have?
I do chart readings. I mostly like where my heart really is whenever people are wanting to manifest. And what I do is I come in and I use astrology. I look at your chart and I can see what karmic hangups you have, or maybe what lessons you need to learn. And so I can see the shadow work or the inner self healing that you need to do. So I like to tackle that because doing that helps um, dissolve any sort of limiting beliefs that you have. And it propels your manifestations forward faster. So we would work with your strengths and then work with shadow work on the back end, shadow work or inner self healing on the back end to kind of kill two birds with one stone. So that's if someone is, ready to look at their shadow work and really looking to double down and move forward using astrology as a tool, like, I'm a girl, I'm here for it. Like that, helping people like live their best life because I am a Jupiter ruled person at heart. I am hope incarnate. Even if I see like a really difficult chart, or if I'm like, "Oh, like, this one this one's gonna be a bit rougher," I always wanna find the loophole. I wanna find your strongest placement to be like, "Okay, I know there are other things going on. I know there's been a fair amount of suck, but just listen to me. Lean into this placement. We'll propel you forward. We'll get you where you need to go." Like, there's always a way to wiggle out of it. There's always a way to get through a loophole to get where you wanna go. You're never locked in. The very Sag moon, I know. You're not you're never locked in. You are never like just fated to have this shit life. I mean, it can be a shit life if you let everything bulldoze you, if you keep your awareness low and your head in the sand and you don't want to do anything about it. You can do that. That's on you. It's your life. You can choose to do that. But if you want to break free of that, if you want to move to something more expansive and grow and have the things that you've wanted, you can do that. And you already have the power to. It's just about finding the method and the energy line, the frequency that works best for you. And I am really good at seeing that in a chart.
And to that, I will just add, you know, working with a coach, a mentor, a guide, having somebody help you through this process is going to be so much faster than trying to go it alone. And if you yourself are if you're a coach or you're in some sort of helping profession, you need a mentor, you need a
Yeah.
coach. You need somebody to really help guide you through, because if you're out there helping other people and supporting other people, who's going to support you? And
Hmm.
we all need that kind of support. So just finding the right person to do that is so key. So how can people find you?
I am active on Instagram. I have Facebook, and then I also have a website, theselfnetwork.com. You can email me or DM me to see about coaching. I am there, and I am so willing to help. You just have to reach out and find me.
Amazing. And then I will put all of those details in the show notes as well, and a link to my new favorite podcast, Alley Cat and the Canary, which go listen now, subscribe. That way you will know when there are new episodes dropping, and you'll be waiting with bated breath, just like I am. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I've loved it. I feel so like grateful that you invited me here. Thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. All right, everybody, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you found this content valuable, it would mean the world to me if you'd give it a thumbs up and share it with anyone else who you think would benefit from it as well. And if you would like to see more incredible conversations like this one, please subscribe to my channel and continue this journey through the human experience with me. I truly appreciate you spending this time with me today, and I look forward to being with you again very soon.